Pokerogue is an incredibly difficult and even more so addicting fan-made Pokemon game that is taking the internet and my sleep schedule by storm, and I can't get enough. So let's see if you can beat Pokerogue using only dragon types. If you've never seen this game before, you start off by picking your starters like normal, but each Pokemon is worth a certain number of points, and you can only have a maximum of 10 points to build your team. If you start on a fresh account, your only options are the actual starter Pokemon themselves, which would obviously make this challenge impossible for a few reasons. So I'm using my personal account for this one. But wait, won't those awesome egg moves make this way too easy? No, not even a little bit. Grab a drink, kick back, and relax, because this one is an absolute roller coaster ride. We choose Dreepy with Spirit Break and Blazing Torque, then Tyrunt with its hidden ability, which will be Rockhead once it evolves, with those powerhouse egg moves to take advantage of it, and an adorable little shiny Swablu that isn't a dragon yet, so we can't use it until it eventually evolves. And here we go. In case you haven't seen this game yet, there are 200 floors with wild Pokemon, trainers, gym leaders, etc. And after each floor, you get this item screen where you get a few free items to choose from, and the shop up top that you have to spend your pretty limited money on. But this, however, is a crazy first floor roll, so we snatch up that wide lens immediately. Tyrunt makes short work of the first 7 floors with Dragon Hammer, which brings us to the first of many rival fights, which get considerably more difficult, by the way, to the point of downright impossible. Thankfully, this time Tyrunt can get us through pretty effortlessly with a few Dragon Hammers, but do not get used to that. Ivy is an absolute menace, I promise you. Tyrunt hammers his way through the first 15 floors with ease, until he runs into this Zigzagoon, who stole the wide lens. There's no way of getting it back. It's just gone. So yeah, that sucks, but there's nothing we can do, so we keep on pushing. Now we're approaching floor 20, which is either a boss Pokemon or a gym leader, and we're paralyzed with no way of healing it until after floor 20. So we have no choice but to keep moving, and we run into our first gym leader, Cress, and his water types. Tyrunt is paralyzed first turn, so Basculin gets off 2 Aqua Jets, bringing Tyrunt down to about half, before it does go down to a Volt Tackle, but that obviously leaves us in one-shot range of his next Pokemon, Panpour, which of course takes down Tyrunt. So we send in Dreepy, who gets licked and paralyzed. Oh no. Then the next one crits. So yeah, that's the end of attempt number 1. Still think the egg moves are gonna make this game too easy? Yep, let's see how long that lasts. For attempt 2, our starters are an Adamant Dragon Dancing Gibble, then the same Tyrunt and Swablu once again. On the 6th floor, we get a super early Dynamax Band, which is incredible if we ever get a dragon who can use it. In our first rival fight this time around, Gibble weakens both of her Pokemon for Tyrunt to easily finish off with some more Dragon Hammers. So we can fast forward to floor 20, where we can try to get revenge on Cress by beating his own brother, Chili. A Sand Tomb and a Tackle can bring down the Darumaka with Gibble at about a third health. Then he sends out Simisear, and Gibble survives the Incinerate and lands a Sand Tomb. So we switch into Tyrunt, who resists and can drop the Dragon Hammer, defeating Chili and tasting that sweet, sweet revenge. On to floor 25 for our next rival battle, but yeah, she has a Servine with Magical Leaf. So Gibble barely survives after getting off a Bulldoze, and we switch into Tyrunt, who eats 2 Magical Leaves and survives on 1 HP, then fires off a Flare Blitz and takes down her starter and himself in the process. But Veluza is her next Pokemon. So that quickly marks the end of attempt number 2. Told you guys this was insanely hard, but don't you worry, the dragons will reign supreme. But I won't lie to you, there were a handful of other failed attempts here. Attempt number 3, we started with just Dreepy and Applin, and just barely squeaked by Ivy on floor 25 with our questionably powered Gen 8 dragons. Then Dreepy smashes through Erica with Blazing Torque on 30, and then on 40, the boss is just a plain old Nidoking that absolutely stomps us into the dirt and ends attempt 3. But thankfully, the whole idea of roguelikes is that even though we're losing, our account is getting stronger. So we do reduce the cost of Dreepy using some candies and start attempt number 4 with it, Gibble, and Tyrunt, where we wipe on 25 to Ivy. Attempt number 5 is otherwise uneventful and also ends on floor 25. But attempt number 6 actually goes really well, and we get all the way to floor 50 where we run into Watson on the one run that I don't bring Gibble, so you can guess how that one went. But on this next run, we don't bring the bag on, we go with Dracovish instead. This run also starts off really strong, and we get a Mega Bracelet on floor 48 for a future Mega Garchomp. But we wiped Surge on floor 50, even with our Gabite. Have you guys gotten a feel for how difficult this challenge is yet? Yeah? Okay. Alright. No more messing around. This is it. This is the final run, for better or for worse. So this time we have to make some changes to the team. Our first pick is going to be the 5-cost Turtonator, which should carry us through the early game at least, along with our usual Gible and Tyrant. As expected, Turtonator flies through floor 1 through 7 and easily sweeps the first rival fight, where we get a super rare roll with the ability charm, but other than that, nothing really exciting happens between there and floor 20, where we face our first gym leader, Chillin, however you say his name, to complete the trio of these brothers in this one video. But since we have Turtonator, I mean, what did you expect here? A few embers and an armor cannon later, and we're moving on to the grassy field, which is going to make for a very easy and quick progression through the game, but there are 0 dragons to be found here. So we have to hope for a map here soon so we can add some to our team. So Turtonator burns his way to floor 24, where we get the Lash Out TM just in time for the rival fight on floor 25. And it comes into play immediately as it knocks Reboot into the yellow. And 2 of them bring Aerodactyl down to the red before it comes dangerously close to knocking out Turtonator with Ancient Power. But Turtonator can finish it off with an Incinerate, and then Staravia comes out, but is easily one-shot with Armor Cannon, though that does leave us too low to stay in, so we switch into Tyrant, who just barely misses the kill on Reboot and gets taken out by a few assurances. But thankfully Gible can come in and clean up the battle, but that was definitely a little bit too close for comfort. On to floor 30, and the boss is the Fairy-type Whimsicott, which could be scary for sure, but Tyrant can handle it with 2 Flare Blitzes. Then into the tall grass biome, it's pretty much just as easy as the grassy field so far, and Turtonator learns Dragon Pulse on floor 36, which is absolutely huge for us. Then on 39, Gible finally evolves into Gabite, and on floor 40, the boss is a Rotom Mow, which is really cool for sure, but it gets one-shot by Incinerate. Turtonator is definitely fulfilling its role as the early game carry. Floor 41 brings us into the cave, where we run into our first dragon encounter, a Noibat. Thankfully, Incinerate doesn't kill it, and we do catch it in a nice rogue ball. The rest of the 40s are smooth sailing, with nothing else of note appearing, so on 50, we run into the Rock-type gym leader Brock. He immediately reads my flamethrower and switches into Golem, but it does pretty decent damage anyway, so next turn we can take it down with a Dragon Pulse. Dwebble comes in and immediately gets the flinch with Rock Slide, but it misses the next one, so Turtonator takes it down and out comes Steelix. Turtonator melts it with a flamethrower, defeats Brock, and lets us move on to the lake. But for now, that brings us to our next rival fight on floor 55. It leads off with Cinderace vs Turtonator, so let's test out Shell Trap. Normally, you have to be hit by the opponent for the move to go off and do any damage, but apparently that part of it isn't implemented at all, so it's just a 150 base power, 100% accuracy fire move. Nice. Anyway, we read the switch and go for Dragon Pulse into Aerodactyl, who thankfully misses Rock Slide, so Turtonator can take it down with another Dragon Pulse. And we learn Shell Smash? Oh, this Turtonator is broken. Staraptor comes out next, and we eat a close combat and burn it to a crisp with Shell Trap. Cinderace is back, but goes down to a Dragon Pulse this time. And her final Pokemon is an Applin, which I would love to add to the team, so we easily defeat it and our rival. Alright, so this team is really not impressive still. Turtonator is carrying pretty hard. As we arrive on floor 60, our little Tyrant finally evolves into Tyrantrum, and we can immediately show off its new hidden ability Rockhead with a quad-effective 120 base power Volt Tackle on this poor little Swanna. Into the construction site, and on floor 62, Noibat evolves into Noivern. Nice. Let's see how it does against this Girder. It has a great matchup, it should do great, but it misses its first Air Slash. Okay, no big deal, it'll bounce back. Oh, it misses the second one too and goes down to a Rock Slide. Alright then, good thing this isn't the Nuzlocke, because on floor 65 it redeems itself by one-shotting a different Girder and bringing Gabite up to level 48 and evolving into the monstrous Garchomp. A huge upgrade for our team. And now in these double battles we can safely use moves like Bulldoze or Earthquake with Noivern in the other slot. Floor 70 is just a boss Machamp that gets destroyed in 2 Air Slashes from Noivern, bringing us into the Power Plant. Tyrantrum and Garchomp next to each other, isn't that just a sight to behold? A few D-dances later and Garchomp sweeps through the 70s all the way to our next gym leader fight on floor 80, this time against Volkner and his electric types. But remember, we just got a Garchomp, so we should be fine. Lantern goes down to 1 bulldoze, but his next Lantern survives one, apparently, and then Luxray comes in, intimidates, and Ice Fangs. So once Garchomp brings it down with a few bulldozes, he's pretty deep in the red, and last out is Rotom. And after the attack drop, Dragon Claw can only bring it into the yellow, and Garchomp goes down to an uproar. But Tyrantrum comes in, drops the hammer, defeating Volkner and bringing us into the factory. Which is cool and all, but still doesn't give us any new dragon encounters. Which is fine, our team is doing great, but we really do need to fill it out before it gets too late. All 4 of our dragons actually did their share in working their way through the factory. Then on floor 80, the boss is this little Klefki. We're fine. It survives the Flare Blitz and one-shots Tyrantrum with Flash Cannon. Alright, all jokes aside, Turtonator comes in and cleans it up, sending us all the way back to the plains, and the search for more dragons begins anew. But there is another major roadblock in our way, Ivy. She leads with Cinderace and we go for Head Smash, but she switches into Kingdra as our attack misses. But we can outspeed next turn and take it out with 1 Dragon Hammer. Then Flapple meets the same fate. Aerodactyl can get off a Stone Edge, but it does go down to 1 Volt Tackle. Staraptor's next, so I'm expecting the fairly obvious close combat into Tyrantrum, so we switch into Noivern, but she reads me like a book and lands a Hyper Beam on the switch. But it's pretty pathetic, so Noivern can take down the bird with 2 Boom Bursts. And her final Pokemon, Cinderace, comes out and meets the exact same fate, so now we can actually hunt down some dragons instead of relying solely on fate to bring them to us. Floor 100 is a double boss battle, so we swap into our trusty combo of Garchomp and Noivern. Our attacks surprisingly don't do too much, and Gumshoos one-shots Garchomp? I know it's a crit and all, but that's gotta be a joke. Thankfully, Noivern can take down the stupid Mongoose, and Tyrantrum misses Head Smash. But Licky Licky really can't do anything to either of us, so a few more attacks take it out and brings us to our first decision on our path. Grassy Field, Metropolis, or the Lake. None of which actually have any dragons available to catch, but as you'll see on this crazy map, which biome you choose leads to which you'll end up at. The only dragon within reach on the Grassy Field route is Applin all the way in the meadow. Metropolis leads us to the same path that we were just on, and the lake also doesn't have any dragons, but it does lead to the sea where we could find Seadra, so let's go there. The lake doesn't give us any issues other than having way too many trainers to battle who have way too many Pokemon, but eventually we do make it to floor 110, where we're challenged by Gym Leader Crasher Wake. We lead Tyrantrum against Pelipper and he switches on our Volt Tackle, straight up sacrificing his Empoleon. Thanks man. Pyukumuku is next, and I don't want to one-shot it just because of innards out, so I use Dragon Hammer, and it keeps pain splitting, which is so annoying, but it does eventually go down. And Floatzel is next, but sadly it does outspeed Tyrantrum and gets the kill, as well as our Noivern with a quad effective Blizzard. Oh boy, here you go Garchomp, I hope you can dodge one, but then he switches into Gyarados on the Dragon Claw? Why? I don't get it here, but I'll take it. And the next Dragon Claw crits, taking out Gyarados. Pelipper comes out, and Dragon Claw isn't doing much, but neither is Air Cutter. So we can take this opportunity to set up 2 Dragon Dances and then shore up, as well as the Floatzel in the back. The second Hurricane brings us back into the yellow, but now a +2 Dragon Claw can get the kill on Pelipper, as well as the Floatzel in the back. To the beach! The beach really is a vacation for us here, as Tyrantrum sweeps through pretty much the entire thing by itself, including the Clawitzer on 120. So now our choice is the island or the sea. The island has Alolan Executor as an uncommon encounter, and the sea has Seadra as the same. I love me some Kingdra, but the island can lead back to the sea, so we'll just go check it out there first. I will say, I love how the island biome is just a bunch of Alolan Pokemon. 1, because that's a great idea. 2, because I love the Alolan Dex, especially the Alolan forms. But we're here for 1 Pokemon, and 1, 2 floors go by. A Mega Bracelet? That is absolutely a massive roll for us. We still need to find the Mega Stone, but this is still incredible. Nothing on floor 123, 124, and then 125 has one of my top 5 favorite Pokemon on it. Take a wild guess which one it is. Nothing on 126, 127, 128, or 129. We do find a Soldew, which is incredible. It increases the influence of the nature on a Pokemon, so we give it to our Adamant Tyrantrum. Then on floor 130, it's a dang Alolan Dugtrio, so no new dragon here. Once the Dugtrio is shoved back in its hole, we do indeed end up back at the sea. So the hunt for Seadra begins. But I won't tease you this time around. Tyrantrum Volt tackles his way through the entire biome with no dragons in sight. On 140, we run into the gym leader Marlin, and we lead Tyrantrum against Kabutops, and it outspeeds and lands a nasty superpower. Thankfully, one Volt tackle does the job though. So he sends in Kingdra. Really? You just had to rub that in my face? So rude. Thankfully, it misses Draco Meteor, and Tyrantrum can get the one-shot with Dragon Hammer. Wailord, Jellicent, and Wishy-Washy all go down to a single Volt Tackle, which brings in his ace, the terastallized Caracosta. It eats a Volt Tackle and responds with a Surf one-shot, but Noivern comes in and cleans it up with a Boom Burst, defeating Marlin. Our next choice is the Seabed with the uncommon Dragalge, or the Ice Cave with nothing. The Seabed it is. There's no new dragons on floors 141 through 144, but on 145, you guessed it, Ivy shows up. And this battle takes a massive difficulty leap, and you'll see why. We start off with Tyrantrum versus Cinderace, but she switches on the head smash straight into poor little Flapple that gets demolished, but has a Reviver Seed. Oh yeah, and if you haven't heard of those, well, I mean, you just saw what they do. They're a free automatic revive mid-battle. Super broken. But it doesn't matter because Tyrantrum outspeeds and drops the hammer. Sadly, Tyrantrum gets outsped by Electivire, who lands a Drain Punch, but a head smash gets the easy Oko, and here we go. Yes, that is a shiny Rayquaza. We just full send into Head Smash and bring the Rayquaza down to its last little boss health bar, but as expected, Rayquaza nails Tyrantrum with an Outrage, and it takes it down, of course. So now our only hope is to outspeed, and thankfully Garchomp does it and takes it down with a Dragon Claw. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh hey, I'll give you a spoiler for her next rival battle. That shiny Rayquaza that you see, yeah, she gets a Mega Stone for it at some point. Yeah, you'll see. But this battle isn't over yet. Staraptor comes out with Intimidate, so we switch into Turtonator on the Hyper Beam. Then I try to Protect on the recharge turn. Let's just pretend you didn't see that. And it's raining here on the seabed, which makes sense, so we aren't gonna Shell Trap. Instead, we Dragon Pulse on the switch into Aerodactyl, but it only does about a third, so we switch again into Garchomp on the missed Stone Edge and then get the kill with Dragon Claw. The Staraptor's back, so we switch back into Turtonator on the Aerial Ace. We Burning Bulwark on the next one to protect ourselves and burn the Staraptor, but it has 2 Lumberries, so that was pretty pointless. Then it fires off a Hyper Beam, just barely missing out on the kill as our Shell Trap brings it into the yellow. But this time I remembered the Hyper Beam has a recharge turn like I haven't been playing Pokemon for 25 years and take down the edgy bird. Her final Pokemon, Cinderace, comes out and I just let our turtle go down so we get a free switch into Garchomp. 2 bulldozes later and we defeat Ivy yet again. And we immediately get rewarded with another ability charm. Alright, these battles are getting a lot tougher and they are not going to stop doing so. But of course, no Dragalge to be found on the rest of the seabed, so Tyrantrum crushes the would-be Lubdisk evolution and we get automatically brought into the cave. Frame 1, we do find a soft sand for Garchomp though, which is incredible. But nothing else of note happens until floor 160, where we run into an Earth Eater boss Garganical, which is insane to have as a passive. I guess I haven't talked about those yet. I will in the next video. It's basically a free second ability. Anyway, Garchomp can handle it, so now we choose to go to the Badlands, where Garchomp really just bulldozes his way through the whole area, literally and figuratively, and nothing too interesting happens other than finding this King's Rock on 168. Then on 170, we find Gym Leader Clay and his ground types. Garchomp is out first, and we immediately D-dance in Claydol's face. Then he bulldozes our speed back down, so we repeat that same process and end up at +2 attack and neutral speed. So Dragon Claw gets the easy one-shot on Claydol. Excadrill then misses an Earthquake? Did Sandvale actually just come into play? So a Bulldoze one-shots her, as well as the Stunfisk, then Dragon Claw one-shots the Golurk and the Crocodile. Then his final Pokemon, Stunfisk, is as easy as it gets. So we defeat Clay and have another choice on our hands. Our real goal here is to make it to the Wasteland, the land of the dragons. So of course we choose the mountain this time around in hopes of it leading there. Nothing really happens at all in the 170s, so we can fast fast forward to floor 180, where the boss is an Altaria. Finally, another dragon. We send in Noivern to weaken it with some air slashes, sacrificing itself in the process, but bringing it down to its last bar so we can catch it in one Rogue Ball. And we finally have a new member to the team. Now that leads to floor 181, leads to the Wasteland, where there are dragons aplenty. First up is a Haxorus and a Cyclozar. I do like Haxorus quite a bit better here, but Cyclozar is the much rarer encounter, so we make sure to catch it, but holy crap, those IVs are hot garbage. So this thing probably won't be seeing battle. But I really couldn't have wrote a better script here myself for this one, as our Elite Four battles will take place in the land of the dragons, where we can take our rightful place as champions. First up is Hala and his fighting types. He leads with an intimidating Tauros, so we switch into our brand new Altaria, but we really don't have any good moves yet, as Dragon Pulse barely does anything, and Altaria obviously goes down to a quad effective Ice Punch. We send in Tyrantrum, who can get the Revenge, Flare Blitz, and one-shot. Then when he sends in Hariyama, we don't want to Flare Blitz into a potential Thick Fat, so we switch into Noivern on the Earthquake. Nice. Air Slash does about 2/3 as a close combat tickles Noivern. Even after the Citrus, another Air Slash can secure the kill. Tauros comes back out and Air Slash brings it into the red before its berry, so the next one takes it down. But another Air Slash surprisingly only does like 1/3 to annihilate, so then he slams Noivern with an Outrage. Oh boy. So what do we want to switch into that? I guess our bulkiest boy, Turtonator. So we Burning Bulwark to block the Outrage and get off a burn. So the next one barely touches our turtle, and Shell Trap does some huge damage. But before we can get the kill, he switches into a different Annihilate on our Dragon Pulse. So we Burning Bulwark again, then Shell Trap can take it out. Next out is Beware, and it falls to the same Burning Bulwark Shell Trap combo. We survive the final Outrage and bring down the Annihilate, defeating the first of the Elite Four, Hala. We have to spend a crap load of our money to heal up our team though, which is pretty unfortunate as money is crucial in the late game. Mostly to hunt X items and to heal up your team. But on floor 183, we run into a Dragonite. If we can catch that, it will be a huge upgrade from Altaria. Turtonator almost gets taken out in the process, but we do catch the Dragonite. It has pretty good IVs and a good nature as well. So we drop Altaria like a sack of taters, heal up our team, and move on to floor 184, our next Elite Four challenge, Olivia and her rock types. She leads with a Rock Terra Aggron and immediately reads our Burning Bulwark by switching into Carbink. So we go into Garchomp, who eats the Stone Edge for breakfast, and 2 Bulldozes easily take out the Carbink. Next out is Dreadnought, and Garchomp fires off a Bulldoze, doesn't get the kill, but does get a flinch. The King's Rock is starting to show up, so the next Bulldoze brings it down, and Relicanth comes out. Bulldoze isn't doing too much, but neither is Hydro Pump, so we take this opportunity to set up 2 D-Dances, then shore up. Now a +2 Bulldoze takes out the Relicanth, the Lycanroc, and the Aggron survives just barely, but not for too long. Then the Alolan Golem gets one shot, obviously, defeating Olivia pretty easily. Then on floor 185, we find a Baxcalibur, which would be a huge upgrade once again if we can catch it. So we switch into Cyclozar to weaken it, since it going down here really doesn't matter since it's going to get replaced. So now we go into Turtonator and start chucking Rogue Balls. It takes a few, but we do manage to catch another pseudo-legend dragon. So we add it to the team and start healing up for our next Elite Four match. But our team is starting to look absolutely stacked. Up next is Elite Four Acerola and her ghost types. We lead Turtonator and Burning Bulwark to scout. As expected, it's Earthquake, so now we can safely switch into Noivern, but I'm a total idiot and I try to Boom Burst a ghost type. Yikes. But anyway, Banette gets flinched by an Air Slash and then taken out by the next. So Delmise is out next and also falls to 2 Air Slashes. Mimikyu is pretty terrifying, so we just let Noivern take the play rough so he can knock the disguise. Then we let Noivern go down to get the safe switch into Turtonator. We try to Burning Bulwark, but she reads that like a book and switches into Runerigus. So we switch into our new flying type, Dragonite. Though his moves are still pretty suspect, this is the problem with catching Pokemon in the late game. We go for Hurricane and miss as she switches back to Mimikyu. Then we take a strong play rough and slam Mimikyu into the red with Outrage. Then she misses the next play rough, so Dragonite takes down the Mimikyu. Mimikyu. What a debut. The next outrage does about half to Runerigus as she just disables. But since we're confused, we hard switch into Garchomp. Slam does absolute pitiful damage, so you know what that means. We D-dance in its face twice, then proceed to sweep the rest of her team with Dragon Claws. Down goes Acerola fairly easily, and we are flying through the Elite Four. Floor 187 has a Flygon, but no matter how much I love it, it's just a bargain brand Garchomp. So we move on to floor 188 to the final Elite Four member, Kahili. Her lead is a Staraptor with Intimidate, which definitely isn't ideal, so we switch into our bulky Turtonator on the Brave Bird. Then we Burning Bulwark to burn up her Lumberry. We take another Brave Bird and fire off a Shell Trap, taking down her Staraptor. Mandibuzz comes out, so we Bulwark to Scout, and it's Dark Pulse. So we risk it and stay in, survive the Dark Pulse, and land a critical hit Shell Trap, taking down the Mandibuzz. Charizard is next, so we Bulwark to Scout, and he Dragon Claws right into it, which is huge. With the attack drop, Turtonator can survive the next Dragon Claw and melt down the wannabe dragon with the Shell Trap. Just kidding, Charizard, I still love you. Oricorio comes in, and Turtonator has done more than enough of his share this time around, so we can let him go down to a Thunderclap and get the free switch into our new Baxcalibur, who actually has a pretty awesome move pool right from the start, but Oblivion Wing does a little bit more than I'd like to see, so we switch into Garchomp as she sends in Hawlucha. But it misses the high jump kick, taking half damage, and then Dragon Claw easily finishes it off. Toucannon comes in next and gets flinched by the Dragon Claw thanks to the King's Rock. And even after its berries, the next one can get the kill. Last up is the Oricorio, who survives Dragon Claw on 1 HP and confuses Garchomp, but we had a Lumberry, so Garchomp finishes it off, defeating Kahili and the Elite Four. Woo! There are 3 major challenges remaining. Oh, not this Tyranitar. The first of which is on floor 190. It's Champion How. Holy crap, I forgot to heal. Oh, I just made this like 5 times harder than it needed to be. Okay, our only hope here is a Garchomp sweep, but on turn 1, he switches into a Tapu Lele as we D-dance. Oh boy, of course he has a Lele. So we just send it, and Bulldoze just barely doesn't do it. But he Heat Waves. Why? I mean, I'll take it. Thank you, Hao. You probably just saved the run. So we Bulldoze again as he switches into Decidueye. But Dragon Claw can easily take it out, as well as the Noivern, but then Oinkologne survives one? Why? Anyway, we take advantage of that and shore up, D-dance, shore up. Lele comes back out, but there's no way she's staying in here, so we read the switch and Dragon Claw into the incoming Alolan Raichu, easily taking it out. But then he sends in a Lunala. You gotta be actually kidding me here, right? Dragon Claw does about a third through Lunar Shield, but Moonblast does massive damage. And this might just be the end. But then he just switches? So on the next turn, Bulldoze takes out the Lele, then we shore up twice in front of the Smelly Pig, and then a Bulldoze easily takes it out, as well as the Lunala, defeating Champion How, even though I will admit, we did not deserve that one, but we'll take it. But it's not over. Now we're in this strange place full of Paradox Pokemon. On floor 192, we run into Roaring Moon, which since I've caught it before, I actually could catch it here. And as you can see, I strongly considered doing it, but who knows how awful its moves are going to be at this point, so we're going to stick with our team. And Garchomp delivers us from temptation, taking down the Roaring Moon. Nothing too interesting happens on 193 or 4, which brings us to our second to last major challenge of this run. Some would say the hardest by a long shot, Ivy, our final rival battle. It's Garchomp versus Cinderace, so I D-dance on the obvious switch. Staraptor lands in extreme speed, but gets destroyed by a crit Dragon Claw. Aerodactyl is easily handled with the same, and there it is. The shiny Mega Rayquaza. A massive hurdle for our dragons on this run. We have the D-dance up, so we just go for it. Dragon Claw brings it down to its last health bar, and Dragon Energy doesn't kill. Garchomp survives. Then Garchomp outspeeds and takes down the terrifying legend. But it's not over. She still has 3 Pokemon, granted, one of which is a Flapple that gets absolutely obliterated, as does Cinderace with a crit Bulldoze, and her final Pokemon, Electivire, meets the same fate. We have defeated our rival Ivy and her shiny Mega Rayquaza. One more challenge to go. We fly through the last few floors and arrive at our final challenge, Eternatus on floor 200. We do get a free switch at the start of this battle, which is pretty generous, so we send in Dragonite. Turn 1, he misses Eternabeam. I thought we outsped. That probably could have been the whole run right there. Again, thankfully, we do get off an outrage here and bring Eternatus down to half. On the next turn, he doesn't miss, and down goes Dragonite. But holy crap there, we got lucky on turn 1. Now, at the pinnacle of our challenge, we turn to none other than our ace, Garchomp. Dragon Claw brings him down to the red, but wait, it does turn into a raid-style battle here, and Dynamax Cannon does big damage to Noivern, and our combined Dragon Pulse and Bulldoze takes down its first health bar, dropping his speed in the process. So now we outspeed and take down another health bar before Flamethrower brings Noivern to the red and gets the burn. Another of our 1-2 punch brings him into the yellow, and Dynamax Cannon takes out Noivern. We send out Baxcalibur next, then Dragon Claw and Glaive Rush bring him down to the red, but then he recovers. That's just not fair. Thankfully, the next Dragon Claw and Glaive Rush bring him back deep into the red, but then Dynamax Cannon crits and one-shots our Garchomp. Oh, but Baxcalibur comes in clutch, lands a Glaive Rush, defeating Eternatus and completing our dragon-only challenge of Pokerogue Classic Mode. Holy crap, what a run. What a solid team we eventually built. It was so much fun, and I can't wait to do another one. I've actually already recorded it. So if you enjoyed it as much as I did, be sure to drop me a like and a comment and subscribe if you want to see the next one. I'll see you there.